In the trailer for Star Wars The Acolyte, it was stated that this is about power and who is allowed to use it. That's meta, because that is exactly what is going on behind the scenes of Lucasfilm as well, where no one loyal to George Lucas' Star Wars is allowed any power. Not even George Lucas. This video is sponsored by Surfshark. March 19th of 2024 may well be one of the darkest days in Star Wars history. Not only was it the day when the first trailer for The Acolyte, Kathleen Kennedy's signature Star Wars series that no one in the Star Wars fan community wants, was released, it was the day that George Lucas himself decided to stick a fork in it by publicly endorsing Bob Iger in the proxy fight against Nelson Peltz. We're about to see what all of that means, plus what showrunner, real-life Kathleen Kennedy Acolyte, and former Weinstein personal assistant and enabler have to say about it. I'll give you a tease though. Disney better brace themselves, because like all their recent Marvel and Star Wars releases on Disney+, The Acolyte is more likely to be met by a wave of cancellations rather than new subscribers. I'm not even sure anyone will want to pirate this on the high seas, where you incidentally shouldn't be faring anyway, not just because it's illegal, but because of all the spyware and malware you might encounter and the data theft you run the risk of being subjected to. To protect yourself, you need to protect your data, and a good way of doing that is through a VPN, such as the one delivered by this channel's sponsor, Surfshark. A VPN, or Virtual Private Network, is a privacy protection tool which encrypts your online data and secures your personal information, even when you're on free public Wi-Fi, which is a goldmine for anyone wanting your data. Surfshark masks your IP address so that your location, download history and other data isn't linked to your personal ID, while their Clean Web feature blocks trackers, malware and phishing attempts, enabling you to surf safely. Best of all, unlike some other VPN providers out there, Surfshark does not monitor, track or store what you do online. There's no activity log. In addition to providing online safety, Surfshark also liberates your internet by unblocking blocked websites and enabling you to bypass geo-blocking restrictions by changing the country you access the internet from, which gives some great advantages when it comes to streaming. For instance, you can access 15 different Netflix libraries, all with a different selection of movies and TV series, simply by changing your virtual location. And there are many to choose from, as Surfshark has over 3,200 servers in more than 100 countries around the world. That's pretty good, but it gets even better. If you type in the code MIDNIGHT when ordering, that triggers an exclusive special offer of 3 extra months for free. So, secure your privacy with Surfshark. Just head on over to surfshark.deals/midnight to order, link is in the description. Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in trying it out. Thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring this video, and with that, let's get back to the Acolyte trailer release. So the Acolyte trailer is out, and it might have been intriguing, were it not for the fact that we already know what this series is, namely Kathleen Kennedy's rewrite of all Star Wars in her image. That is what Lesli Headland is doing here. As it was said in the trailer, it's about power and who is allowed to wield it, and that would be Kathleen Kennedy and her acolytes that have reshaped Star Wars into a female-centric brand by and for activists. Jon Favreau fought hard to make Star Wars for everyone with The Mandalorian, but Kathleen Kennedy made that a shadow of itself when she got rid of the load-bearing pillar to his plans that was Gina Carano. The whole Mandoverse kind of crumbled after that. At this point, I don't even know how much interest there is in that Mando and Grogu movie that in whole or in part will be replacing Season 4. But after what can only be described as a very peculiar development history, we will now be getting the series the fanbase has been dreading and actively rooting against, namely The Acolyte. To go with the trailer release, The Hollywood Reporter dropped a puff piece with showrunner Lesli Headland, where it was stated, Star Wars The Acolyte creator Lesli Headland is currently putting the finishing touches on a 4-year journey that started with Lucasfilm boss Kathleen Kennedy buying her overall series pitch in the room. At the time, her hook was Frozen meets Kill Bill, and now the first trailer provides a few more of the puzzle pieces. Set a century before Star Wars The Phantom Menace, Amandla Stenberg's mysterious character appears to be hunting Jedi during a time of peace near the end of the High Republic era. Jumping forward a bit, the show will be taking a page out of Rashemon's playbook, exploring different perspectives on the same events. That could have been cool, were it not for the fact that we already know what this series is and how it intends to shape Star Wars into something else. To wit, the puff piece continues with praising the destroyer of Star Wars, namely the Last Jedi director Rian Johnson, and pushing the link between him and Lesli Headland. The article reads, Russian doll co-creator Headland's first job as a writer was on FX's short-lived cult classic series Terriers from 2010, and her first produced TV script, Manifest Destiny, happened to be directed by Star Wars The Last Jedi filmmaker Rian Johnson. Headland was not only inspired by Johnson's work, red alert right there, but also his demeanor on set. I love Rian. He was the first director I ever watched work, so getting to see him work on that show was, oh my god, it was just a dream, Headland recalls. He was so kind and so quiet, and yet he was so clear about what he wanted. He never seemed stressed out, and I wish I was more like him. He's like the patron saint of calm directors. Calm he may be, but he was still the one who buried the past, meaning George Lucas Star Wars, and killed it since he had to, so Kathleen Kennedy could replace it with her Star Wars. And up to this, Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars in its purest form has been the High Republic Publishing Initiative, which naturally will be referenced and canonized on screen in The Acolyte. The Hollywood Reporter asked, or were instructed to ask at any rate, fan service is always a complicated subject with Star Wars. Some people want to see as many familiar faces as possible, while others prefer uncharted territory. By taking place a century before The Phantom Menace, does that inherently mean that the show won't be loaded with cameos? To which Headland answered, that's right, but for example, you will see a little bit of Venestra Rowe, I guess that's how you pronounce it, from the High Republic novels. She ends up being live action for the first time, so that's definitely a cameo for that audience, I would say. That audience, being the High Republic audience, amounts to, 112 or so? But that's the audience for Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars, and Bob Iger signed off on that. And with George Lucas bending the knee to Iger then, you might be getting a lot more of that. As we have covered extensively in past videos, there is a proxy fight going on with Nelson Peltz Rian Group, who demands 2 seats at Disney's board, or what presently passes for Disney's board at any rate. You see, as a general thing, the purpose of a board is to hold the CEO accountable to the shareholders. But Disney's board doesn't do that, as everyone on it has been hand-picked from Iger's friends and acquaintances. Meaning that Disney doesn't actually have a board, as rather than holding Iger accountable to the shareholders, what passes for a board enables and signs off on everything he wants to do, and protects him from the shareholders when that goes to hell. If Peltz and the Rian Group were to get those 2 seats at the board, Iger's reign of questionable fiduciary legality would be at an instant end, so Team Iger will stop at nothing to prevent that from happening. And to this end, George Lucas just sided with the likes of BlackRock and Vanguard and State Street, as he bent the knee and kissed Iger's ring. Our good friend Valiant Renegade speculated that one reason Lucas may have done that is because his wife sits on the board of JP Morgan Chase, and JP Morgan Chase are very much so in bed with BlackRock. In fact, it was only a few days ago that the CEO of JP Morgan Chase publicly endorsed Iger, because Iger runs Disney the way that they want Disney run, and they couldn't care less about the Disney legacy or any of the other shareholders. None of which changes the fact that Lucas still signed off on this. The statement credited to him, which no doubt came straight from Disney marketing, reads, "Creating magic is not for amateurs," which is a dig at Peltz and the Rian Group, which are no amateurs. When I sold Lucasfilm just over a decade ago, I was delighted to become a Disney shareholder because of my long-time admiration for its iconic brand and Bob Iger's leadership. Well, that was grandiose, but I don't blame Lucas for feeling that way a decade ago, though I do blame him if he still feels that way today, after both Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Willow have all been killed on Kennedy's watch, which Bob Iger sat by and allowed to happen. George Lucas has in the past indicated how disappointed he's been with some of the choices made, and backing Nelson Peltz was his chance to actually bring about meaningful change, even if that might have annoyed his wife, but instead he blew it. The statement continues. When Bob Iger recently returned to the company during a difficult time, I was relieved. No one knows Disney better. I remain a significant shareholder because I have full faith and confidence in the power of Disney and Bob's track record of driving long-term value. I have voted all of my shares for Disney's 12 directors and urge other shareholders to do the same. I would love to know what motivated that, because again, voting for Disney's current board is voting against there being a board, as the only thing this board does is give Bob Iger personal supremacy over all things Disney, which has not worked out very well this past decade, although we've only really seen the effects of Iger's mismanagement this past half a decade. It's true that creating magic may not be for amateurs, but the supposed professionals working under Iger have positively killed it. As the Acolyte will no doubt demonstrate once again, Iger's Disney is now the place where magic goes to die, and that is what George Lucas just voted for. Were you one of those hoping that George Lucas somehow might come swooping back in to save Star Wars? And if so, are you still hoping that? Let me know your thoughts on all of this in the comments. And before you go, remember to secure your privacy and bypass quarrelsome geo-blocking restrictions with Surfshark VPN. Type in our code MIDNIGHT at surfshark.deals/midnight to get an exclusive deal of 3 extra months for free. Link is in the description.